The wreckage of Flight 90 and the clues it might contain are at the bottom of a frozen river. And both pilots are dead. So what happened in the cockpit will remain unknown unless divers find the black box flight recorders.
First thing we always look for are the recorders. From the flight data recorder, get altitude, heading, airspeed. From the cockpit voice recorder, get the last 30 minutes of conversation in that cockpit between the crew.
The team begins by questioning the ground crew who de-iced Flight 90 at Washington National Airport. Any faults in their work could have left snow and ice clinging to the aircraft, with grave consequences. The lift an aircraft needs to fly is created by a smooth flow of air over the wings. A layer of ice or frozen snow creates a disruption which can reduce lift and increase drag dramatically. Experts call the problem contamination. The ground crew insist Flight 90 was fully de-iced before it taxied to the runway. But the investigators probe deeper and uncover an intriguing fact. The operator who de-iced the right side of the aircraft mistakenly thought the air temperature was -2 degrees Celsius. In reality, it was -4. As a result, he sprayed less than the recommended amount of de-icing agent onto this side of the aircraft. The investigators feel on the verge of a breakthrough. They decide to examine the de-icing process in even more detail.
We're looking at the entire de-icing process. What was the mixture of the de-icing fluids? How was it dispensed?
They test the de-icing solution used on Flight 90 and uncover something even more disturbing. The fluid contains half as much of the de-icing agent, glycol, than expected. So the de-icing spray was somehow weaker than the operator's control panel indicated. How could this happen? The team examine every component of the de-icing vehicle used on Flight 90 and find their answer. A specially calibrated valve in the glycol delivery hose had been replaced with an unmodified valve. The result? A reduced flow of glycol to the nozzle. So it wasn't just the right side of the 737 which didn't get enough glycol. It was the whole aircraft. But the investigators know this is far from conclusive proof that Flight 90 was contaminated with snow and ice when it took off. Ground crew used the same de-icing unit on other aircraft without incident. So although substandard, it may still have done an adequate job. If Hendrix's hunch is to hold up, he needs better evidence. What his team discover next shocks them all.
Okay, guys, I'm gonna put a little reverse on this.
Captain Wheaton used reverse thrust during pushback from Gate 12.
Are you sure?
They should never be used before takeoff in wintry conditions for one simple reason. The reversers redirect the jet of hot air leaving the back of the engines towards the front of the aircraft. This can shoot a cloud of slush onto the wing, into the engine inlets. In sub-zero temperatures, the slush can refreeze within minutes. The use of reverse thrust is further evidence snow or ice could have caused the disaster.
It was very poor pilot judgment to do it. Not a good idea.
Then Hendrix gets another break. A member of his team tracks down an extraordinary photograph. It's a snapshot of Flight 90 taken by a passenger in another plane at approximately 3:20 p.m., just 10 minutes after de-icing finished. The image is grainy, but it shows fresh snow is already on the aircraft. The photograph is further evidence that the 737 may have been contaminated after it was de-iced, regardless of how well the job was done. By day 4 of the investigation, most of the bodies have been recovered. The focus of the salvage operation can now move to the wreckage. The parts are taken to a hangar at Washington National Airport for detailed examination, but they yield no clues. And the 2 crucial black box flight recorders are still missing. Finding them is a daunting task. Divers are equipped with an acoustic homing device. But the tangled wreckage is spread over an area of dark, freezing water the size of a football pitch. The media is hungry for answers. But NTSB spokesman Francis McAdams still can't announce any breakthroughs.
As I told you before, I have no idea until we get all of the evidence.
The investigators turn to the one card they haven't yet played: the survivors.
Survivors are in the airplane. They hear sounds, they feel bumps and grinds and hear noises. They supply an awful lot of information.
Joe Stiley describes how Flight 90 shook violently before it crashed. His words confirm the investigators' suspicions. They know this could be the result of ice and snow, disrupting airflow over the wings. But then, Joe reveals that the 737 seemed slow and sluggish during its takeoff run. Why could this be? Other aircraft didn't have this problem, despite the snowy conditions. Then, 7 days after the crash, a diver picks up a faint signal. He follows it through the icy water until he can just make out a tangled mass of wreckage. He carefully pulls away twisted pieces of razor-sharp metal and hits the jackpot. In his torch beam, he spots one of the flight data recorders, then the other. It's the moment everyone involved in the investigation has been praying for.
After the recovery, Seacrest lifted one recorder over his head in victory. A big moment for the salvage team after a week of frustration.
The investigators rush the black boxes to their labs. After days of speculation, they're about to find out exactly what happened in the seconds leading up to the crash. They're excited, but they also know they're about to listen to the voices of the dead.
Every recorder that I've listened to is always an emotional occasion because of the tragedy involved.
Boy, this is bad. Probably the worst snow I've ever seen. You know, it's been a while since we've been de-iced.
The team are stunned when they realize both pilots can see snow on their wings, yet they don't turn back for more de-icing.
I mean, this one's got about a quarter to half an inch of snow on it all the way down. I had a little on mine.
I was amazed, perplexed, wonderment, if you will, that under the regulations, the federal air regulations, you're not allowed to take off with snow or ice or frost adhering to your wings.
Yeah, 326.
But just when the evidence seems to be mounting, they realize something just doesn't add up. They're perplexed by First Officer Pettit's comments about his instrument readings.
My God, look at that. Never look right, does it?
To try and find out what was worrying him, they study the flight data recorder. Immediately, another mystery rears its head. They discover that survivor Joe Stiley was right. The 737 took 45 seconds to reach takeoff speed, 15 seconds longer than normal. If the aircraft was contaminated by ice and snow, this might slow takeoff slightly, but not for an entire 15 seconds. The team realized something else was wrong with the 737, and they don't know what it is. They could be back to square one.